is good.
I'm playing Wipeout.
Freaking off on that one.
Were you just playing
That was
Wipeout?
the intro. That was Wipeout.
That's so bad.
That's Wipeout.
That's That was not. I don't think that was.
That was not Wipeout.
I used to be able to play Wipeout.
Was that like Camptown Racers or something? I don't know.
Hello and welcome to the Vergecast, where we begin by quietly drumming Wipeout to one another.
Not Wipeout.
Not Wipeout. Hello and welcome to the Vergecast, where something happens, and then other things happen, and then we talk about pretty much whatever the hell we want. I'm Nilay Patel.
I'm David Pierce.
I'm Ross Miller.
You'll notice Joshua Topolsky is not here. It's very disappointing. He was.
I feel like if I move my mic around, he'll be here. That's
Yeah.
that's how we.
I'm gonna just
How's
fix
your
my
hair,
hair.
Ross?
It's well, let me see. That's good.
Is it like a ski slope?
Josh.
That was always my favorite. He's like, my hair looks like a
No,
ski
look,
slope.
Josh is at the zoo making sure all of the lions are not dogs. That's just what's happening. It was an emergency, and he immediately rushed to the zoo.
Are you a lion? No, that's a chow chow.
This is a real story. So if you don't know, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, and honestly, why would you?
Yeah.
You faithful reader of the internet. There was a story today in which a zoo in China came under fire for having, I believe it was a bull mastiff,
I think that's right. Yeah.
shaved to resemble a lion, and then they just put it in a cage and told people it was a lion.
And the sign still said African lion.
Yeah, it's an African lion, and they were only discovered when visitors heard the lion bark. It's just a true story. It's an amazing
Well,
story.
okay,
My favorite story of the day.
In happier mammal news, there was a zoologist that found
In happier mammal news,
happier mammal news.
Well, no, hold on. Wait, before we
you wanna
before
get
we
into
get
this?
to
can
that.
we continue with amazing absurd mammal news?
No, so the best is
Fine.
that this has happened before at this zoo. Like, this is a thing. We talked about this in this piece. The zoo, it says the zoo also tried to replace other exotic animals with even less congruent substitutes. The snake cage, for instance, contained 2 large rats and exactly 0 snakes.
Whoa, no, wait. Rats, snakes
Those
eat
are great.
rats. It's just food.
Right, it's like just wait for the
They
snake.
lost the snake.
I
They're
see.
just trying to bring it
They're
back.
trying to lure the snake.
That's the old sleight of hand. Every zoo does that. Every zoo does that. They're like, there's definitely a tiger in this cage. Shh, it's gonna be fine. That was the zoo in my hometown. It was like, there's definitely a bear here.
You had a zoo in your hometown?
Oh, yeah, there's Scene Zoo. It's the last free zoo in North America.
Nice.
Everybody should go. It's
Was
nice.
it just like
Where's
a
it at?
guy who got a bunch of
No,
animals?
it's a nice zoo. It's
nice.
it's free. It was on the way to my high school, so whenever we were late to school, which was never, Mom, we would tell them that there was a long line at the zoo. I don't know why it always worked.
Did you ever actually go to the zoo?
We went to the zoo all the time.
Oh, really? That
Dude, it was
wasn't
a
lie.
free zoo.
It's still a zoo.
Like, we were in high school. Where else are you gonna go? What are you gonna do?
the mall.
Yeah, why'd you go to the mall? You could go to the zoo.
He's not wrong.
It was like it was like right there. It's on Main Street, and everybody should go. It's free.
There's something about when I was growing up, I was like, I did not want to go just smell animal turds all the time.
No, I didn't want to do that either. The
But,
zoo
like,
also
that's
had
the
a
zoo.
the zoo also had a beach. It was called the Zoo Beach.
There you go.
I'm not kidding.
It was called the zoo.
And the Zoo
Beach?
Beach was often closed because of cryptosporidium in the water.
Wow.
Which is
I had
also
a-
why the zoo is now closed.
Truly a fine story from my youth. Continue your other mammal news.
The happier mammal news is the Smithsonian discovered Olinguito. It's a new mammal in the rainforest of the Andes in Colombia and Ecuador.
Yeah.
It's cute.
It's adorable.
It is adorable. It's not for sale. You can't have
You
one.
can't have one.
You cannot
Our
have
support
one.
manager, Chow, in a meeting earlier was like, it's so cute, I want one.
That's the reaction. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
no.
Can't have one. But it's good. And so they discovered it. This is another hilarious... I mean, I guess scientists and zoo people are different. The scientists looked at all the ones that were in museums and like, wait a minute. These are all different animals. All right. I'm sorry.
Okay, before we actually go into real Verge news,
I just had that picture in my mind of somebody holding up like 3 different stuffed animals and being like, wait a minute. These
You're
are all
not the
different.
same. I've
this
seen
one's
you
different.
and you.
Great
but
moments
you.
in zoology.
This famous quote, one of these things is not like the other.
No, I'm like genuinely fascinated by
Yeah.
how they find new species. And like, how do they know nobody else saw this and was like, nope, it's just a dog that they shaved.
Science. How does
I
it
don't
work?
know.
Science.
Yeah.
All right. What else is going on? Look,
right.
we've got to get serious.
Yes. Well, quick housekeeping first. Last week we did the Photoshop contest. We asked
Yeah.
people to send us their best Photoshop of Doctor Who TARDIS drift.
So can you give me like a 30-second
No.
recap? I missed the Vergecast last
I
week. How
really
did we
do not
get
remember
to
how we
this?
got to that.
How do we? Like,
I know.
How did we
I'm
end
aware.
up here?
I'm aware of the
Yes.
situation. There's a new Doctor Who. He's a guy.
Right.
Okay. Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
He is on television.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the Doctor has been on television since like 1901.
Right.
50 years this year.
The Doctor invented television.
The Doctor invented television.
Right.
Which was weird because then he was already on it.
But no, because he went.
He was like, check out my invention.
He's like
technically
God.
invented it
He was just
yesterday,
always
and they
there.
just brought it back.
Yeah.
For 50 years, nerds will watch this. So the Doctor's been on the TV. Now there's a new Doctor.
Did you just call it the TV?
The TV.
TV.
And then Chris Ziegler was here, and Chris and I do not like Doctor Who. During this episode of the Vergecast, Ross was standing right over
I'm
there,
just fuming.
angry
Like,
at me.
Solid.
Because look, man, I don't. Sorry.
it's fine.
Can somebody
Look.
send me just like whatever, like maybe like an image macro that explains why I should care about Doctor Who? Happy to look at it. In any number of gifs.
6 sentences or less.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the catchphrase, he's a madman in a box. You
That
can
doesn't
relate
mean
to, You
anything.
can relate to at least half that.
Dude, I could put David in a box
box.
and get a madman in a box. It's super easy.
Fair enough.
It's not something that's not
IRL.
something I don't
Yeah.
have access to. Anyway, so then Chris was here, and Chris was like, and Josh was like, the only way you would watch Doctor Who is if the TARDIS was drifting. And then we arrived at this image,
Right.
Yeah.
which somebody sent to us, which is
Yes.
good. There's another one that I think is a little bit better. Do we have another
I
one?
don't know. There was another one I can try to find.
Who
it.
sent us this one?
This was Ben Lamb
Yeah.
at Bennyfactor
At Bennyfactor.
on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And
Like,
the
if you can't
tagline
read
is
it,
my favorite part.
Yeah, do this.
So it says, on the streets of Tokyo, there's a fake London telephone booth that goes sideways through corners.
That is pretty good.
Which is, yeah.
So, Ben, thank you so much. That was awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
You've done a good job.
Let's get to
You
the real
did
stuff.
it.
So
There's real stuff?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's fake. It's prototype. One day in the future, real stuff.
Okay, talk to me.
Hyperloop.
That is real.
Not
Here's
yet.
what I want. Look, let me tell you emotionally how I heard about the Hyperloop.
Emotionally, how you heard about it. as
Emotionally,
opposed
the
to
emotional
factually
situation
how
that I
you
was
heard about
in.
this.
I was in a tube that was going 600 miles an hour. Like that's
That's a real thing.
that's what happened to
An
me.
airplane. This is Mad Libs?
An airplane is a tube that goes 600 miles an hour.
Okay, yes.
That's
with
true.
Wings.
It doesn't flap. You're wrong about how airplanes
I
work.
know how airplanes work, damn it.
So that's real, right?
Yep.
David
Yeah.
was sitting next to me. He can verify.
I was there.
He was clocking
I was
me.
on the same tube.
So like I'm totally okay with. So the Hyperloop is Elon Musk. He's been promising I'm going to take you from LA to San Francisco
Right.
in 30 minutes somehow.
Right.
Trust me.
Trust me. And so he finally published the plans. He says he's not going to build it himself, but their plans are open source. He might build a demo piece of it.
Right.
The plans are hilarious. He's like, I worked all night on this.
Yeah.
And they're like hand drawn. It's amazing.
And the insane part is that only Elon Musk, he's the only person in the world who could do anything like this and anyone would take him seriously.
no, yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
else is
'cause-
just the ravings of a madman.
Yeah.
But Elon Musk, and the best part is he's giving this speech and he's like, well, I can't do it because I'm really focused on solving electric cars and putting us in space.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
He's like,
Yeah,
I got
you're
enough
busy.
on my plate.
You're busy.
I
Yeah,
got
and the
things
next
going
day
on.
he was like, check
Revolutionized
out my
travel.
sideways rocket.
yeah.
Like I did that too. I
Yeah.
also stayed up all night for this science fair
Well,
project.
And to be fair, there are other people who have come up with similar ideas to this, like electromagnetic reels
Right.
that just do the pulse, lower pressure to decrease
No,
friction.
so his
Like
big
this-
his big innovation is a big. So it's a tube
Right.
that goes along with I-95,
Yes.
I5.
I-5,
The 5. If
fi-
you're
oh,
cool.
the Cinco.
The Cinco.
The Cinco.
There you go.
E-Cinco.
Yeah, right. So the tube is full of air, obviously, and the train has a gigantic fan in the front of it that runs, sucks in the air, shoots it into skis made out of space metal. So it's like a air hockey table.
Technical term. Yeah.
And then there's like magnetic accelerators that like shoot the train, which is awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Does it ever-
Everything about that is awesome.
It sounds so logical.
I remember
Right.
like when I was like 5, I
mean,
played this game
can-
like
I just
Incredible
wa-
Machine. Like this is Incredible Machine. Like there's a bowling ball that hits the spring. The spring
Yeah, right.
pushes the train forward.
I mean, it's no different than like we're gonna put jets on wings and then shoot a tube into the sky.
Right.
I just want to point like, just that's what I'm saying. Like emotionally, like this is like definitely like when people are like for the first time they're like we're gonna make jets, and people are like I don't know.
Well, before that though, they did have like
That's how people responded to jet.
they had the
jet
Wright brothers before
transportation.
jets, and then like this is like this was the next big thing.
Right, we got trains now. This is
Right.
the future of trains.
But we also
is-
had the Concorde, and that's gone away.
yeah.
Well,
So-
and the thing I thought was really interesting is he pits this against this high speed rail system that's like
$6
actually
billion
being built.
is his idea. Is
Right, and this other thing is going to cost $100 billion.
Right.
And he was like, "Well, just try mine. I bet it'll work." And it costs,
If you've got like $6 billion to spare, whatever, just do
yeah,
it.
So but it's supposed to go like 600, 800 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is that's the crazy part, and nobody knows like how that'll work.
right. Well, and it's all about low pressure, right? It's all
Right.
about keeping the tube at super low pressure.
Right. If you do that, if the force is pointing downward, it's a much smooth, quiet ride for people.
Look, it's a tube built
Doesn't
on
crush
skis
them.
of space metal,
Right.
and I want it. Like, that's all I'm
You
saying.
just want a personal one.
I don't care. Like,
This is your mammal. You just want it. You see it, you want it.
I just want a Hyperloop. Like, I don't know why. Like, in your heart, if you are the most cynical person in the world, and you probably are because you're watching this show,
We're so sorry.
you want a Hyperloop.
Can we get one from Chicago to New York?
You want to ride a Hyperloop. I bet you do.
No, so
Think
this
about
was
it.
the thing is we were sitting on this plane and we both had the exact same reaction right as
Yeah.
it was coming out. As we both kind of looked around the plane and we were like, well, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Like I should just be on a Hyperloop right now. That would be a lot easier.
A Hyperloop from New York to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I want. I want a Hyperloop. And I heard there's so much crap in the world about, like, this is just folly, or this is bullshit, or, like, this is vaporware. And, like, calling the Hyperloop vaporware is, like, you are so
Hilarious.
disconnected. Like, it's not a product. He's not like, don't take a train, wait for my Hyperloop. He's just
Yeah,
like,
next week.
yeah, he's just like, let's try. I have a good idea.
Yeah.
And
And the
I'm
thing is,
Elon Musk and I can do it.
None of the technology is brand new. Like it's just retrofitting some things that we've already discovered. Like just putting things together.
Right.
And whether or not it's made, it's awe-inspiring. We've kind of stopped dreaming about these technologies. Like
Right.
I would rather think of the Hyperloop than I would an iPhone 5S, for example.
Really?
That's iterative. Well,
What if the iPhone 5S had a big fan on the front of it and skis made of space metal? And it was just
What if
that would be awesome.
like, Ross, check out my phone.
Whee!
800 miles
Does
an
that
hour.
fit in your pocket?
800 miles. I've got to send my phone to San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we should get an air hockey table.
No, the reason I love Elon Musk
Just putting it out there.
I love Elon
All
Musk
right.
for the same reason I love Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Is they just have such insane things to say and they believe them so fervently that you
Yeah.
really have no choice but to be like, I hope you're right.
Right.
It's awesome.
I mean, he's right. We should build a Hyperloop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have here, Elon Musk, I will fund you. I have $6 billion.
Here's what I know. I
got like
and I
$70
love the
in my
idea that
wallet
he's
to make
open
it happen.
sourcing the Hyperloop.
Yeah.
Like, it's like other people are going to be like, oh, damn.
Firefox developers are going to be like, I'm in.
Let's kickstart this.
Hyperloops are the new Linux. Like, it's great. Do you think the Google people are just like,
Maybe.
Hyperloops?
Doing Street View would be so fast.
Dude, we're shooting for the moon now.
Yeah.
With the Hyperloop.
Yeah.
I was really sad because when you land in San Francisco and you on the way back yesterday when you were dropping off the rental car, you drive under the monorail tracks.
Yeah.
And I was like, those aren't Hyperloop tracks.
Nope.
It's like when you watch
it's gonna take so
Transformers
long.
and you get really mad that nothing is transforming around you after you leave the movie.
You get in your car and you're like, you suck.
Yeah. Every time I go to Becky's farm, her dad's a farmer. So every time I go to the farm, I like stare at the combine. I'm like, come on. Just fucking transform.
Just like I'm gonna turn around, just like squeak a little
Just
bit.
be
I'll
cool.
know.
Yeah, just,
I know
just
you're
know,
you.
like, you're alive.
Right. I'll never tell anybody.
Can you blow something up? Please. All right. What else? What else? happened?
This is the part. This is where we kind of like.
By the way,
take
the
a step-
Hyperloop would be awesome if it had Transformers in it. Just putting it out there.
What if the Hyperloop
What,
transformed?
it is a transformer.
The whole thing.
It's a giant
Into, like,
snake.
It transforms into a more expensive train.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Or like Usain Bolt transforms into a Hyperloop. I got a whole thing going here. It's fine.
Wow.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, your brain went to the stupid place.
No, I'm not wrong.
You kind of Shrek that. It's like,
People
let me
can't
just throw in a
transform.
pop culture reference. Let's just see.
Can't do it. Never seen it happen. Oh, I guess
Elon
there was,
Musk told me you can.
There was that babe in Transformers who transformed into a snake lady.
That's true.
But she was a transformer to start with. She wasn't human to start with. That's
true.
Yeah.
You
And
don't
as far
know.
as we know, Usain Bolt is human.
As far as
Yeah.
we know.
After all. The big thing, this is where we kind of take a step back and just
As far
let
as
you.
we know.
We're moving on. All right. Your rant. I'm calling it a rant because I know what's about to happen. All right. Are you ready? You have enough drink?
I'm good. You want
Right.
to just talk about it? Let's just talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
I'm very
This-
irritated.
This is yesterday's big news. You know, the Gmail contract that kind of came out. People miss.
Well, so
in
wait,
your-
this
in your
is
tradition-
yesterday's not big news that somehow magically became big news.
Well,
Right.
it became big news, and then let's talk the timeline of FUD here.
Sure, it's really
Break it
easy.
down.
So there is in this world the NSA and PRISM and Edward Snowden,
Okay.
who may or may not be real. Who knows? He could just be an actor. Just think about it. Who knows?
I watched Iron Man 3 last night. Could be the same thing.
That movie sucks.
It's an awful movie.
Is it? Damn.
awful movie.
Yeah, really don't like
Really,
it.
really
Dear
like
Anyway,
it.
so there exists all this culture of paranoia and anger at spying, which is legitimate.
Right.
The government's spying, right? They're listening to us right now.
No, they're not.
Regardless
all
of
the
whether
things
we're
they're
broadcasting
listening
this live on the
it's
internet.
not the Vergecast.
They are definitely. There's somebody at the NSA listening to me right now. I would just like to say thank you for protecting my freedom each and every day by monitoring everything that I do. Sorry about the thing I did this morning. You know what it is. Look, so there's this miasma of bullshit in the world, right? And then there's fine. That's weird. We should figure that out. Then there are a group of personal injury lawyers. We should bring up his website.
Okay.
Slocum Law.
What?
Mike Slocum.
Okay.
Who filed the various suits against Google. And their suits allege in various ways that Gmail violates. Can we just bring it up on the?
I'll see if I can help that. Hey, I just want to say for the record, William Shatner is their spokesperson.
Yeah, Mike
it seems.
Slocum
No, there's
William
interviews with
Shatner.
Shatner about this.
Yeah. Wow.
So these lawyers have filed suit against Google in various states, alleging that under state and federal wiretap law, that Gmail scanning, that the scanning that Google does, violates these laws, right?
Right.
All right.
So that's like radically different than Prism and the NSA, right?
Well, right. It's like one level of abstraction different.
Well, no. One thing is like the NSA is spying on Google,
Right.
Right.
and the other one is like Google is running Gmail, and this thing that they're doing when they run Gmail is we want a cut of it because we didn't agree to let you scan our email.
Right.
Right.
And the damage is that they're proving is that because when Google scans your email, they sell ads against it, so they can get some money out of it.
Right.
Right? That's what, if you're a lawyer and you're suing, you chase the money. In law school, they call them BMW cases because if you're a lawyer, you get a new BMW at the end of it.
Nice.
So that there's the NSA, there's like different things.
Right.
Right? There's like, I'm mad at the government because the government is spying on the internet. They may or may not have Google's cooperation. They may not have Apple's, whatever. That's bad. Everybody agrees this is bad. Needs to be more transparent.
Right.
Then there's a group of personal injury lawyers suing Google because they want a cut of Gmail's ad money.
Right. Now
That's this case.
Let's be clear. If you are a Gmail user, you're signing a contract that says you can scan my stuff. This is terms of
Right.
service.
So there's two groups of plaintiffs in here. In the filing, the motion to dismiss that Google filed, which by the way was filed in June, is like it's literally broken up into two chunks. It's the people who use Gmail. And it's like, dude, you can just go somewhere else. Like, if you don't consent to this scanning, like
Which you do at the very beginning, the day you sign up.
Maybe you don't read the stuff. Maybe you don't know what's going on. Maybe you just found out. But like, you have a choice. You can just leave.
Right. Sure.
So that's their first argument. Nobody is paying attention to this argument because it's like Google's going to win, right?
Right.
The court is going to say yes.
Well, and that's the argument everybody makes, right? And everybody's been making that argument for forever, which is like, if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
So that's the easy. So then the hard argument is if you're not a Gmail user. And so if I don't use Gmail, if I use iCloud or SkyDrive or Outlook or whatever, not SkyDrive, Outlook.
Or Yahoo.
And you use
AOL
Gmail.
Mail.
Right.
And I send you an email.
Okay.
That means when it goes into your Gmail, you're going to scan, Google scans my email and like put some ads next to it for you.
Right. Right.
So their argument is that's illegal. That's you're wiretapping my conversation.
Because Outlook, if you're an Outlook user, you didn't agree to the terms of services.
You didn't agree to anything,
Right.
right? You have no contractual relationship with Google. These wiretap laws should kick in, and Google should pay me some money,
Okay.
right? And turn off these services I agree to. And Google's argument, the way you structure the legal argument, is you start as broadly as possible, and you end up at the narrow thing. Okay. So, by analogy. So let me just finish the story. Okay. Let me get to that. I'm very unhappy. So by analogy...
This is your calmest rant yet, I gotta say. You're not screaming. Oh, there we go. All right.
This is why your phone doesn't turn off anymore, by the way.
So anyway, so Google, in this argument, they're like, when you involve a third party in a communication, you don't have any expectation of privacy. That's their line. That was like one throwaway line under a heading that said... that was dealing with this class of people that don't use Gmail.
And in this case, Google is the third party.
In this case, they're saying Gmail is the third party. Like, I'm talking to you. You've hired Gmail to be your service provider. To communicate with you, I have to type @gmail.com. I should reasonably expect that Gmail will do stuff.
Right. Now,
They will provide you email.
To be devil's advocate, is there any precedent for saying I should assume when I send to @gmail.com that @gmail is going to fuck with my stuff?
No. So this is how Gmail's... No, because these cases don't just come up, right? It's not like judges don't sit there being like, I've decided, right? You need to have a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So here's a lawsuit, and Google's making its argument. So the way you construct a legal argument, like if you hired me to paint your house, and you're like, I want my house to be green, and I painted it blue, and then you sued me, I would start with, by law, all houses must be blue. And I would stay the hell away from what actually happened, right? Because if I win the big, broad, whatever
all houses
argument,
must be blue argument,
then I've won. Right. And we've never gotten to, it was a misunderstanding, like, let's argue about what color blue the paint chip was. Like, I don't have to do any of that. I just be like, dude, in 1978, the Supreme Court said all houses must be blue, and I just did what anyone would reasonably expect me to do, right? So that's Google's first move, is to say, under this 1979 case, Smith versus Maryland, when you involve a third party in a communication, you waive your right to privacy. And that is for the government, right? So the big difference, which nobody understands, and if you are looking at me right now and you're all confused, here's where you're fucking up. Just right here. The Fourth Amendment applies to the government of the United States and to the state governments of the individual states. It does not apply to me. It doesn't apply to him. It doesn't apply, right? Like, so I can't unreasonably search you.
Right.
I can just search you and you can sue me
Are
for.
you Googling
I didn't
the Fourth
just Google
Amendment?
the Fourth Amendment.
It's okay.
Fine.
I'm going to look at your screen. It's
Nobody
fine.
worry
I'll
about
also
it.
admit it.
Right?
Yeah.
So the First Amendment doesn't apply to individuals. It applies to the government. So when your parents are like, stop talking, and you're like, I got free speech, they can just make you shut up. Right? The Bill of Rights applies to the government. The government has a different standard of relationship to anyone.
Wait. But when they say
to citizens,
the people.
The people. There are the people and there's the government, right?
Okay.
And the government has all, the Bill of Rights applies, that first bit of it applies to the government, right? The right of the people to assemble should not be abridged.
By the government.
By the government.
By the government.
Right.
Not by your employer, not by your church, not by Google.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? The Google can do whatever, Google can do whatever it wants.
Yeah.
So Google, by analogy, is saying the government, which has much more stringent requirements, gets this exception. That if you involve a third party in a communication, you waive your right to privacy as to the government, and this is like settled law. 1979 Smith versus Maryland.
Right.
So how could us, Google, not fall under a similar legal idea?
Let's back up for a second. 1979, obviously, this was not an email case at all.
No, this is law that is confusing and controversial and like weird, right?
Okay.
Because
Where
now
did that
there's
law come from initially? Like,
It's
do you
called
know
the-
what the
it's-
case
it's-
was? Like,
it's the Supreme Court case that Google cited is Smith versus Maryland, and
Okay.
the doctrine is called the third party doctrine.
Okay.
Right? And the third party doctrine is literally you need a warrant to open a letter, but if I give the letter to your secretary first, then I've involved a third party in that communication, and the government no longer needs a warrant.
right.
Right?
Okay.
Or right now what they're doing, the bad thing that they're doing with third party doctrine is they're saying when you put call records to your service provider,
Right.
they're storing them as business records.
And they're
storing them
private
as
business,
whatever.
non-government, so that's a third party.
You've involved a third party in a communication. You had your cell carrier track your location. That's a third party. We don't need a warrant for that.
And that's what Smith versus Maryland was about.
Right.
It was about the government collecting
data from
phone calls. Right.
Okay.
So Google is saying even the government, which has a higher standard than we do,
Right.
gets this exception. Right? So why would you sue us, Google, and find liability when the government doesn't have liability here?
Right.
That's the big argument.
Right.
That's the all houses are blue.
Right.
You maybe you don't win that argument. But if you're a lawyer, you make the argument because that's what you're paid to do. You're paid to make the biggest argument. Then you funnel your way down. Okay. So Google's next argument is just by using email services, courts have found that processing of email happens. So you agree to send, when you send anyone an email, you agree to let their email service do stuff.
Right. Because is there any other reasonable way for that email to get into your inbox?
No.
Right.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But you can pick.
Yeah.
You can pick an email provider. I can, whatever.
Right.
There's email providers.
Well, but by this particular law, aren't all of them? Wouldn't that same rule apply to everybody? Like,
yes.
There is no.
Look, you could take Google.
Like, I don't know how to send you an email without involving a third party. Like, I don't have a way to. I don't have a way to say anything except to look you in the eye and say it to you.
Right, but that's great. That's so that if you want to have that fight, you have that fight as to the government.
Right.
That's where the NSA stuff filters in.
Right.
I don't know how to send you an email without involving a third party. That means the government can start taking things.
Right.
Okay.
That's bad.
Right.
We should probably fix that.
So
you fix that way up here.
So we could argue that huge principle.
You don't fix that with
Google
the personal injury lawyer suing Gmail, for, right?
Right.
So then
what Google's
Gmail's
invoking is that big,
Right.
is that big piece of it that
this is the law.
that we haven't.
All right.
Even the
overdone
government gets
Right.
this exception. Why should we pay a personal injury lawyer?
Yeah.
Right? And then finally, at the very end, Google's argument, straight up, utterly simple. There's no way that you would email a Gmail user and not expect Gmail to happen. Right?
Right.
Like, and there's a line in there, I didn't put it in my piece, where they're like, these plaintiffs continued to email Gmail users even after they filed the lawsuit. So they must have known.
Right.
Right? Like, they're making a choice. We can't be liable for their choices.
Right.
They don't want Gmail processing to kick in. Stop using Gmail. Like, stop talking to people
invoking
using
Gmail.
Let the market do its thing and let people scream that they don't want to use Gmail. So that's great.
Yeah. So
that's what happened.
This is like someone like saying, I'm going to sue Hershey's because I'm fat of chocolate, and then I'm going to keep eting Hershey's afterwards.
No, it's like it's a
I just
series
want
of
to talk about
choices.
chocolate. I'm sorry, I'm hungry.
It's not bad.
Yeah, thank you.
No, how do I explain it? It's like if we hired a temp company to come give everybody a secretary, which would be cool.
I'm in.
There's literally a temp company right there. So we go to Beacon Hill Staffing, right? And we're like, give us your temps. And they're like, okay, you can pay X amount of dollars, and these are the services we provide. And the services are like, we're going to listen to all your phone calls and take notes, and we're going to open all your mail and like prioritize it for you.
Right.
Okay, that's what I want you to do. So I have a secretary. He's doing that stuff. And then you call me,
Right.
and like he picks up the phone.
And I say, whoa, whoa, whoa.
And then you're like, I hate this. And then instead of talking to me about it, you sue Beacon Hill Staffing for being like, the service you're providing is infringing my privacy.
Right.
Which is just doesn't, I don't know how that computes. And I would argue that if it was Microsoft in this lawsuit, if it was Apple, they would all be making the same argument.
The same that Google
Right.
was making.
There's no way they would make a different argument. Maybe it would be different in form, but you start at the biggest place.
Right.
Which is, even the government gets this exception. And the government has a higher duty to its citizens than Google.
So why did they pick Gmail as opposed to Outlook or Yahoo
Money.
or whoever? Fair enough.
Right? I mean, I know how Gmail makes money.
Right.
There it is. And like, there's this argument. Like, it's a fair argument.
Right.
Like, whatever. Like, scammy consumer suits are out there. Scammy personal injury law. Like, every time there's an issue in the media that we cover, like, PlayStations are broken. Like, I get press releases from 100 scammy attorneys who are like, I filed a lawsuit. and then you see it bubble up, right?
Yeah.
And it's like
Sony lawsuit
it's not
filed
class
against
action.
Sony.
It's just we want it to be class action.
And so, okay, so that's the background, which
Right.
I know took a long time. Here's the saddest part. This all happened in June. The case was filed in June. This was buried in, this line was buried in the discussion of people who don't use Gmail.
Okay.
And what happens, what they should reasonably expect when they email Gmail users,
Who
right?
They were referred to as non-Gmail users.
Under
right.
a bold
Bold
heading.
type, yeah.
Non-Gmail
right?
users.
Yeah.
And so it's, they can't sue us for providing our services to our customers.
Right.
Right? That if you're going to engage with a Gmail customer, you should expect that Gmail will do its job.
Right.
And so they have this line, the big argument. Consumer Watchdog puts out a press release that excerpts this line. This line only doesn't mention what it is, doesn't mention that like 300 words below it, there's further discussion about how this is about non-Gmail users. And they put it out there in the world. This is shocking admission from Google that they don't respect users' privacy.
And so is there any, do you have any idea why now?
No. And it gets picked up everywhere. Everywhere. And I'm like, we are in meetings, I just saw it.
Right.
And man, I looked at it yesterday. I'm like, this is wrong. Like, I don't even know how you can read these words. Like, if you look at the Google's filing, how you can read these words and arrive at the headlines, which are all Gmail users should not expect privacy.
Right.
Because above and below these words is like a direct explanation.
Yeah.
They're talking about the expectations of other people who email Gmail users.
Right.
So like, that's my whole piece. I didn't do any analysis. I have a lot to say about email privacy. I have a lot to say about the NSA, but this is a sideshow.
None of those things.
This is just like lame. It's like some nonsense from like people who want attention, and they're like, here's some
William
stuff.
Shatner.
Right. From William Shatner. So like, my piece is literally like, I'm just, here are the words that are in the order that they're in. All I wanted to do, I wanted to put up a screenshot of the filing highlighting the words. That was my first instinct. Like, you're idiots.
Right.
Like, just read this.
Just highlight the word non-Gmail users, and then you're
right.
done. That's it.
So I put up the piece yesterday. It blew up. And then here's what's happening. I'm just going to call out the sites that are doing this. Every other site on the internet is stealth updating their piece without putting in corrections. So Time Magazine, I caught you. Like, I saw what you did. I got the tweets, man. Yesterday it said Gmail users shouldn't expect privacy. Today your piece has been stealth updated with a new headline that says people who interact with Gmail users. That's wrong. Like, who cares, right? You didn't say we corrected this because we were wrong. You just changed it. Guardian, you did the same shit. The only site that did it right was the Huffington Post. So congratulations, everyone. You're being out-ethiced by the Huffington Post. Like, straight up, the Huffington Post on their front page yesterday was, like, debunked, and they linked to us.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a couple other sites that did a good job.
Yeah,
But,
there were a few, mea
Right.
culpas out there, which is great.
I just read the thing. Or just
Right.
call me or call a lawyer. Here's what I'm worried
call me,
about.
like, can we just give
Nobody
everyone your
fact-checked
home phone
me.
number? Is that-
Like, I'm pretty sure I'm right. But, like, all the pieces referencing me being right, they still didn't call a damn lawyer and be like, is Nilay right?
Right.
Like, I could be wrong.
And-
I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. Other lawyers are emailing me being like, I can't believe everybody got that wrong. So I feel pretty good about it.
Right.
But, like, did you, media, call any other lawyers to discuss this? Probably not. Did you just take a press release from a hyperactive consumer firm and just reprint it without thinking so you could spin into some story about the NSA? Yeah, you did. Just feel
Look,
bad about that.
It's hard to find a lawyer. They're all too busy proverbially chasing ambulances, of course.
I chase one ambulance a day. How do you think I keep this figure? Right?
Sure.
The ambulances are slow,
Yeah.
and I'm drinking beer the whole time.
And you just said I keep this figure.
And this figure right here.
My girlish figure.
So wait, so two.
Is that some like Southern reference? I don't understand.
I don't know.
He just,
Look,
the
just
twang
feel bad
come
about
out.
yourself. Okay? Not you. Most people should feel fine.
Not you.
I
Everyone
kinda feel-
except you. You're fine.
You're
we
sexy.
like you.
I like you. You look good. Two things to this,
Blowing
though. Blowing it with Nilay Patel. Two things outside of that. So, do you know where we are now with the case? This happened in June. Where has the case gone?
It's gonna
since?
I don't know. Doesn't matter. I've done no analysis. This is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I've done nothing with this case. My engagement with this story is just to explain to people that the headline Gmail admits Gmail users should not expect privacy is as inaccurate as anything that has ever been printed. You could print the sky is red and you would have a better argument for accuracy than what those stories all said yesterday.
Well, it looks pretty orange
because
at night.
sometimes the sky is red.
Yeah. Sometimes they're in dusk. Okay, but I don't want to get rid of the, is this a case otherwise we should care about?
I think you should care about whether reference to the third-party doctrine for these companies carries on as such a strong argument, right?
Okay.
You should really care
Right.
about
Because
that.
ultimately the question here is the third party doctrine
Right.
legitimate?
Yeah, the
'Cause
question
everybody can make the same argument.
the question is, can the government track you whenever it wants because they're saying you're involving
Right.
Verizon in your communications?
Right. So all it basically says is that the government can't track me if I'm like speaking to you face to face.
Right.
But if we're doing basically anything else,
Yep.
they can track it.
They can, if I send you iMessages and that lives on Apple's server,
Right.
can the government say, well, that's a third party?
Right.
Right.
Right? So as long as but that is not Google's problem. Like, it just isn't. Like, Google
Right.
should, and they are. Like, all of the Silicon Valley companies are in Congress lobbying for reform to the Electronic Communications Privacy Act, to the stored community. Like, they're there. They're aware of the problem.
Right.
They're, like, trying to change it. Maybe they'll fail. Maybe they'll succeed. That's where you focus your effort.
Okay, so but
Right?
this trial specifically, at no point is the third party doctrine like at risk of being struck down.
No.
Win or lose,
It doesn't
it doesn't
apply to
matter.
anyone in
Okay.
Right. They're not suing the
The
government. they're
Fourth
suing
Amendment
Google.
does not. This is the mistake you're making.
Right.
I want to reiterate this to you.
Again, not you, everyone else.
Now this time he
Everyone.
means
No,
me
everyone.
personally,
Oh,
actually.
everyone.
Even
This-
the
this
other,
is-
like, lawyers on Twitter have been making this mistake. Guardian journalists loudly making this mistake in my face. The First Amendment doesn't apply to companies and individuals. It applies to the government. The Fourth Amendment, similar, right? It's just, that's the mistake you're making. So they can argue about the third-party doctrine all you want in this case, but they're only using it by analogy to say the government has a higher duty to its citizens than Google does to its customers. That's reality. Like, we change it, run for Congress, change everything, amend the Constitution, but, like, that's the law right now. Okay, I'm done.
All right.
By the way, I hope all of you run for Congress. I'll vote for you.
You wouldn't vote for all of them.
I would vote for all of them.
Nah, you wouldn't.
I
Why
would.
not?
So
I've seen
Our
some
readers,
of them.
can you imagine a Congress full of our readers?
It's very
Like,
I'm in.
every day,
No,
they're
I'm
like, another
so down.
motion that Android is better than iOS.
I got a gift. Rebuttal.
Like, endless filibustering.
this would be amazing.
Guys, I'm playing Temple Run for my entire filibuster.
And you will watch.
Sorry.
Temple Run filibuster would be the shit. I just want to put that up.
David, you want
I
to say
would-
something or should we move on?
I would play that game. I don't know what it is. I would
Temple
play
Run
it.
filibuster?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's
It
talk
never
about
ends.
somebody who hates.
I'm very mad at everyone.
No, okay. This is what I'm saying. Let's talk about somebody else who's very mad at everyone,
the
which
phone
is
down
Larry Ellison,
before it gets
who's
hurt.
also
Fine.
very mad at everyone.
He is.
Everyone was
Very
mad.
mad at
Every
everyone.
person with a lot of money this week seemed to want to yell about something.
That's
Let's
true.
Let's start Larry Ellison.
So Larry Ellison,
I'm
where
gonna
did he
check
check?
my tweets to see how
So
badly this went over.
I mean, there's definitely a horde outside of this door right
Yeah.
now coming.
Go
for
ahead.
you.
Tell the
So
Ellison story.
there were three things, right? Larry
Right.
Ellison. Actually, this is the best part. Is he thinks Apple is doomed.
Right.
He like the finger waggle. He was
Right.
like, we saw Apple with Steve Jobs, and we saw Apple without Steve Jobs, and he did that like a couple of times.
Right.
He also thinks Google is absolutely evil,
the
which
devil.
which is like a little difficult. He lost a lawsuit about this whole thing, and it's very.
He's a little mad.
He's a little
mad,
mad.
bro.
He's a little mad.
Yeah.
And he thinks the NSA is great and essential.
Yeah.
Which is great. He's just Larry Ellison is.
Can we?
like,
Do we have the Ellison video?
a
Can we run
little
at
bit-
least the Jobs video?
I don't
Because
think-
it's impossible to explain. Like Sean tried to write a piece that. Here, wait, let's hear. You can't hear him.
Well,
Right. And
but he look. Oh, no, almost.
I
heard it.
want to. My boats.
So, all right, we don't have
Wait,
the audio.
we're just-
we can imagine him
My boats are very
saying very
fast.
serious.
He looks like he does look
What?
like
How
Tony
fast
Stark.
are they? They're very fast.
very fast boats.
Fastest boats. This man is evil.
This man doesn't have a boat. I have
We're
a boat.
just gonna close in on
He
him.
might have a
Larry
boat.
Page. He's such a nice looking guy.
With a
Look,
boat.
tell
maybe.
me, I've had many women,
You don't say.
in my life.
I say in my head.
so many women.
They're
There's
all
one right
okay.
there. Let me go.
I'll stop that now. I'm sorry. You guys just, what else would he say?
Yeah, I mean, he's just he mad. That's really. That's,
I don't think he's mad. So here's how I think about Ellison. So his big quote, and this is actually like dueling
Right.
Apple stories in the week.
Sure.
So he comes out and he's like, we already know what Apple without Steve Jobs. And keep in mind, Larry Ellison and Steve Jobs are best friends, right? So he's like, I already know what Apple without Steve Jobs looks like. And he pointed down, and he's like, this experiment has been conducted.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and we know what it's like with Steve Jobs. And he pointed up.
Right.
And he's like, and now we're no Steve Jobs again. He
And-
pointed down.
Yeah, and in case you're not absolutely clear, it's he left. You know, we got shitty Apple products. Steve
Dude,
Jobs.
Centris 660 AV.
Pixar. Yeah.
I had one.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm so sorry.
It's the shortest lived Apple product
Nice.
ever.
No, he came back in iPod, which is like
Right.
boom.
And iMac, right? But
Right.
but so Ellison's point is like, essentially, my best friend is the innovator, right? And Apple's doomed, or
Without him.
Yeah, right. That's
Right.
the summary of his point, and that's great. I mean, maybe that's true. I think Apple when Jobs left was a little bit different than Apple now, but so like this is basically a culmination of a week of stories. There's a Fox Business report that was like Apple's board is worried about Tim Cook's ability to innovate.
Yep.
right.
There's just there's this haze. What is happening over there?
No,
no, don't worry about it.
I'm watching you on the monitor behind you. It's terrifying.
very
Why are you
It's-
doing that?
It's just a
'Cause we
lot.
can.
It's a lot of Nilay.
Stop it, David. Stop
You
it.
didn't tell me I had to stop, so let's do this.
No, so there's this haze of bad stories about Apple. It's
Yeah.
like, and Apple's stock price has been very volatile. The next day,
Yep.
Carl Icahn tweeted. Carl Icahn is an
we have
activist,
two
investor,
tweets
billionaire.
from this, yeah.
280 characters, shoots Apple's stock price up. He's like, I am hugely invested in Apple.
He said, we currently have a large position in Apple. We believe the company to be extremely undervalued. Spoke to Tim Cook today, more to come. It's been retweeted more than 2,000 times
Right.
and like immediately spiked their stock.
And it's totally like billions of dollars in market
Yeah.
cap restored by this one tweet. And he did, what was the second one?
Had a nice conversation with Tim Cook today. Discussed my opinion that a larger buyback should be done. We plan to speak again shortly.
Right.
It's like this is what I'm
It's
suggesting.
like the
to
ultimate
do.
name drop.
Yeah.
Right.
He's just like, I was just hanging out with Tim Cook.
Yeah. And
Right.
we had a long discussion with this.
Spend
we,
$1 billion.
We know legal, fine. It's probably legal. Is it ethical? And does ethic guidelines fall under like any SEC?
He's an
like,
investor.
violations?
He's allowed to talk
Yeah,
to
he can-
companies he might
yeah.
want to invest in.
Yeah.
He just can't juice his own stock,
Right, but he's in like
right? Or inside trade.
Right.
Actually, he can juice his own stock as much as he wants.
You just
Okay.
can't inside trade.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, look, this is all great. It's just a crazy, like, the Ellison thing happened, and then the Icahn thing happened, like, right after it. And it's like, this is dueling billionaires.
Right.
Right.
Well, I mean, and that's the wild thing is nobody seems to know. Like there's
Right.
this, we're coming to this fall seems to be like a big inflection point, and one of the two of them is going to be right.
Right.
no,
so here,
no, not necessarily. We don't necessarily know that though. Like we may come out of the season and go, well, that's Apple doing this thing. We don't know how it's going to be. Like,
Sure.
There's no definitive answer that's going to likely come out of this year.
Well, no, I mean, here are the things they could release this year, right?
Right.
And there's some that we know, and there's some that we don't.
A TV. No,
That's
sorry.
not gonna, that just won't happen. They're going to do a new iPhone.
Yep.
right? It'll
Possibly
probably-
2.
No, I would say almost certainly 2.
Okay.
Right? So a new top of the line flagship iPhone, which will probably be a 5S. So it'll probably look like this phone. And by the way, to all of you who keep asking me why I don't just get this one fixed to replace it, it's because I'm going to get a new one soon. Because it's broke. Don't get me wrong.
Real broke. It takes 2 hands
If there
to
are
turn
any
off the phone.
friendly
It's
New York
fantastic.
City Apple geniuses who would like to talk to me about how broken my phone is, I'm eager for that conversation.
I feel like a couple of times it's come up that we should just give them out your home phone number.
It's out there.
It's- yeah, it
people will
probably
figure it
is.
out. But don't call me.
Right.
Because I'll kill you. And
the
to the
NSA will
person,
know about it.
to the handful of people who have figured out how to text me to ask for jobs, stop doing that too. Just don't do it. It's just not going to get you a job.
Right.
Sorry. And it's kind of feels creepy and illegal.
Stop it, Chris
Because I
Ziegler.
might start sexting you
Oh, dude.
That's your move right there.
Wait.
while I'm chasing an ambulance.
You have a Snapchat. You have Snapchat.
Don't Snapchat me. Do not Snapchat me. All right. So 2 phones, right? And then,
Right.
a cheaper one. And that actually, I mean, even like the Apple fanboys are like, that's going to be a tricky thing to navigate. Like,
Right.
how do you make the cheaper one appealing without cannibalizing the more expensive one?
Right. So what they've done before is just make the older ones cheap.
Right.
Right. But
And
supposedly
so
they're
they
going somewhere
naturally
very
lose
different.
some features.
Right.
Yeah. And also, like, people are like, well, it's this phone's 2 years old. Like, I don't want to get it because it's 2 years old.
Right.
A brand
Right.
new cheap one seems interesting.
Well, I think the cheap
but-
one is targeted at like Europe, and it's targeted at
Well,
like,
it's like-
South America,
Right.
right? Where
More developing areas.
well, no, it's developing areas, and it's a place where people buy phones off contract.
Right.
So you can't always sell them a $780 iPhone. Right. Like you need a $300 mid-range product that is like.
So,
there.
but and here's the thing: like this, if they announce it just like that, it's a cheap phone off contract. U.S. doesn't matter. Everywhere except T-Mobile, you always pay that
Right.
cost. So U.S. press, whatever, like whatever, it's a cheap iPhone. We don't care. We have Verizon.
Right.
And stock, we've seen this happen before. Stock prices will go down. They could cash out huge, like in other like emerging markets.
Well, no, look, the iPhone strategy I think is like very natural, right? It's like you're gonna have the 5S, maybe still have the 5, and then the lower end one, right? So like here are your tiers. They all have the same size screen. Like,
Right. This is going to seem like a lame move to a lot of people, but actually does.
well,
bonkers
it's the plan.
If they pull it off.
I think it's just the plan,
Right.
right? Like you can't sell the 4S another year, right? It's got the wrong connector. It's got the wrong size screen. Like you just got to do it.
Well, and like doing this is what's keeping Nokia afloat to some
Right,
extent, right?
right.
Is their big name phones are not successful. Apple has that going for
Right,
them. They're successful, but Nokia's also selling these cheap, often free phones all over the world and still selling a ton of them.
Right.
And
And
I'm
Apple has
sure
to go
Apple
get the,
sees
and
that.
that's what they did with the iPod, right? They had they
Right.
own the top of the market, and then they got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and then they own the whole market.
Right.
Right.
And then now it's Apple and like SanDisk.
So
Wasn't
Right.
it the Nano that immediately became the best selling iPhone?
Yeah, yeah.
Just because it was worse, but it was cheaper.
No, it was the same price, smaller. It was just a prettier iPod.
So
It was
what
not. Yeah, that's
I
it.
thought it was cheaper.
It was the same. It was like literally, it was like $50 to get the next one up.
Someone's going to yell at us on Twitter about this.
Oh
right
my
now.
God!
Everything is broken. Goodbye, Nilay.
Don't nobody worry about that camera. It's fine.
Oh my
they're
God!
Somebody in our studio is very mad at Nilay for
3
his
people in the
Google
control
rant.
room just jumped the fuck up.
I just want to point out that I just rage killed a light. Couldn't take the heat.
Not during Gmail.
Yeah.
During Apple rumors.
Well,
Yeah, right.
it cooled down. The metal expanded and contracted because it couldn't.
and Hyperloop.
Anyway, so
All right,
here's
so let's talk
prove
about what
Hyperloop
else is
alike.
coming. So 2 iPhones, one really obvious, the other cheaper and maybe
Well, I mean,
not as
let's-
obvious.
right. So then I think that's September.
Right.
May or may I don't.
Rumored
Supposedly the
September
10th.
10th date.
Well, and
all
it got
things
like
date.
the Jim Dalrymple yep. So
he just-
supposedly
yeah,
that's
the
Oh yeah, the
locked
ultimate
in.
Apple fanboy. Yep, something.
Yeah.
Well, no, but
Shocking.
he
He's
knows
not
a lot.
wrong. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
got
He's
good
obnoxious
sources.
about it, but he's not wrong. Usually.
Don't mind the shaky sound.
Just
Something bad is happening.
Hey, Will.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't.
so September 10th is supposedly the date for that, which would
Yeah.
be wonderful
Right.
because then people would stop asking me when the next iPhone is coming
And
out. That's
to be-
like the only question I get. It seems like everyone I know
Right.
still has an iPhone 4
Right.
and is like desperately waiting for the next iPhone to come out.
Right.
And it just needs to happen because all of the people I know in the world are
Wait,
going to buy
if they
it.
bought an iPhone 4, why didn't they get the 5s when their
I
upgrade
don't
happens?
know. I don't have a good answer to that. I keep asking people that. I got nothing.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like last year was September 12th, so this is like it's about the same time. It's always the season. Like
Yeah.
we had a lull of Apple rumors, and all of a sudden one week where we get this, and then we get Bloomberg talking about iPads. Like this, we're now in the season of Apple rumors.
Right. So
again.
with the iPads, it's what?
So that's
It's
I think that's another event.
Right.
That's my my sense is that
Historically speaking, it's always another event.
It'll be another event
Right.
for iPads.
Right.
So the iPhone event, they could do what they did last time, right? It was like, here's a new iPhone, here's 15 new updated Macs, here's like whatever, like
they talked about the iPod Touch last time.
yeah,
Right?
here's a new iPod Touch, like shock and awe, right? And then
and they're bound to talk more about iOS 7 too.
Oh, I'm sure
Right,
iOS 7 is coming with the iPhone,
of course.
And then you have another event for the iPad, and I think that is like redesign big iPad,
Right.
and then I think they have to do. I think they were always planning on this. I mean, they can't like change course now.
Right.
Retina Mini.
Yeah.
Do you think so?
So the redesigned iPad is supposedly going to look like the iPad Mini, right?
Right.
That's the rumor we keep hearing, which is
Right.
basically just thinner and slightly
Right.
boxier.
Which battery life notwithstanding, I believe that.
Yeah.
The Retina Mini though, do you think like they can make that at a cheap cost, or at a cost like is competitive?
Well, yeah, we should talk about this. There's actually a bunch I want to talk about.
I mean, this is what makes me think that
Please-
they can
Right,
pull it
look,
off.
Please make sure you
Apple-
shut up so
Apple
people can
lives
read my
in-
Nexus
password.
7.
Apple lives in the same.
No, I deserve that. But
No, they
Crazy
operate in the same component market as the industry.
Right.
Right.
If those panels are out there, they're in the Nexus 7. Like, there's no reason they can't put. Like
right.
the technology is available. The parts are available. It's can you scale it to Apple's level of production?
Right.
Can you do it at the right price? Like these are the questions.
Right.
Google sells these things at cost essentially. So it's what $299.
$229.
$229.
Cheapest one, yeah.
So like, can you make a slightly bigger one for $329? I have to believe that you can.
Would think so.
And I think that's the strategy for this year. And I think ultimately, so that's great. By the way, all of those things sound like great products, right? I'm sure people are going to buy them in droves.
Right.
But none of those is like an earth-shatteringly exciting
Right.
product.
And
They're
I
all
think
what they should be.
that's the Tim Cook problem, right? It's look, you guys can argue with me about this all you want, and everybody loves arguing about this. Like, yes, there were years between the iMac and the iPod, and there were years between the iPod and the iPhone,
Right.
and years between the iPhone and the iPod.
Pad.
God, this is like
Yeah.
it's a lot of I's. We need a new letter, X. No. Motorola's
That's been
X.
done too.
Q.
Somebody's bound to have that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Once Apple got I, there was like a rush.
Yeah. I'm sure like J is still out there.
No, I bet J has been
The
used.
J phone.
JSTOR ish. It's educational.
No,
J-Date,
So
yeah, it's gone.
You can. Yes, there were years, but keep in mind what was happening in between those years was Steve Jobs getting on stage and being like, "The new iPod, it's fat. The new iPod, it's skinny. It's bigger. It has a color screen
we
now.
got a nano.
Like,
We got a shuffle. We got a
Right.
photo.
and they're endlessly their new iMac. This one has a flat screen. This one looks like a sunflower.
Right.
This one goes under a table. This one flies to the moon. Like they just like every year
Yeah.
was another like Steve Jobs moment where he completely like blew up a product line and started it over. Right.
Right.
And he did that with the iMac for like years, basically. He did that with the iPod every October for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, new iPods are here. They're totally different than the one you had last year. And
Right.
It's like
Sometimes worse, sometimes
they
better.
were
but
never different.
Yeah.
Like they were literally like they were different shapes. They came in some different colors, but like that interface just steadily iterated towards
Well, and
like
that's
perfect conception.
That's sort of what Tim Cook doesn't have going for him. Is Steve
Right.
Jobs could change the hell out of the hardware and never touch the software, and
Yeah.
it felt
Right.
really different, even though
Right.
it wasn't different. Whereas now it's just a screen.
No,
Yeah.
but
Like there's nothing.
But the question is like, yeah, this isn't on Tim Cook. Like this is just where the industry has gone.
right. It's where the industry has gone, and so and then the periods between these like revolutionary products like shrunk. Right.
Right.
So like yeah, the iPhone and the iPad came out pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
And then Steve Jobs ran around being like, I solved TV. And Tim Cook has been running around being like, we're extraordinarily interested in television. And like like he says it so much that like we were just doing impressions the other day.
Right.
Because I just know all the words he says.
Yeah.
He's like,
Right.
we have an extraordinary interest in TV and we're just going to keep pulling the thread and seeing what happens. And it's like, there it is. Like, what are you going to say about TV? Like, push the button. It's a soundboard.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's not even on these like investor calls.
It's just-
there's
it's
just
just a
there's a Tim
soundboard.
Cook soundboard.
I would actually. There's a part of me that believes that. Well, so what it is, I don't know if anybody knows. What it is they have scripts. And they have scripts to answer the questions, and they just like read the script. That's why they're so prepared. It's only when you get the only reason we cover the investor calls is because sometimes they go nuts,
right.
Right.
which is cool. But even that, like to some extent, is scripted.
It's kind of scripted. Like we know what we're going to hint at.
Right. So look, I just think there's a lot of pressure on Apple to like deliver one of these products outside of Steve Jobs to be like from conception to execution.
Right.
This was us. This was this team. right?
Well, and didn't Steve? I think it was Steve Jobs that said before he died that they're operating 5 years out.
Right.
Like it just takes a long time. Like even if they
products take a long time.
Right. If they started some new earth-shattering product when Tim Cook took over, it's not done yet. That's just how it works.
And not to mention, like,
Well-
Steve Jobs isn't necessarily going to like always do winners either. Some of the stuff that's not good, maybe was under him.
Emacs, man.
Emacs.
Emacs were great. I liked Emacs.
Were they?
But
They were great.
Let's quickly go through some
All right.
some of the rumors that have happened for iPhone 5 lately.
Yeah.
Just to get out what we think. It's not just cheaper iPhones. A big rumor that was going on for a little bit was
Wait, let me just finish the thought. Here, let me just finish the
Do your
thought.
thing. Do your thing.
So here's the danger zone for Apple.
Gmail.
And I think they're going to do... Yes.
Sorry, go on.
The thought
Go
is
on,
Gmail.
sorry.
Here's what you're getting wrong. No, here's the danger zone for Apple, right? And I think this past week illustrates the danger zone for Apple. They're going to lose control. They have ironclad grip of their narrative, right? One foot in front of the other. Like the phone gets better every year in these like predictable ways.
Right.
Here are the markets that we're interested in, and like everyone talk about what Apple's going to do in these markets. What they're at right now, the precipice that they stand on is other people are defining their narrative.
Yep.
Right. So last week it was Larry Ellison and Carl Icahn who defined the narrative of Apple. One said that it's going to suck. Another person said, I think it's undervalued. Billionaires who have nothing to do with Apple arguing about it, and the stock price going like this.
But that was the same during Steve Jobs. He wouldn't say shit for a while, and like people who like had money involved, they would speak. Things would fluctuate.
I feel like he
not
got
like this.
He got kind of the Jeff Bezos treatment, which was everybody talked about it, but also there was this sort of implicit trust that like we
Okay.
don't understand what he's doing, but we bet he's doing a good thing. And
Fair
I feel like
enough.
Tim Cook doesn't get that implicit
Not
trust.
not just yet. And I think
Not
look,
yet, anyway,
part of
yeah.
it, if I was like Cook's media coach, I think he's just too practiced and too rehearsed. I say this selfishly as somebody who works in the media and wants to write stories about
He
everything
should
he says.
come to the Verge and
Well, yeah, you do, honestly, like, but that's
Get
it.
very
It's
drunk.
once you say the same 50 things about TV for 18 months, or the same 3 things about TV 50 times for 18 months,
Right.
people are just like, "Where? Okay,
just do it now.
But
We believe
yeah.
you.
It's also like almost like first party or second party. When you trust Bezos implicitly because Bezos is making those decisions and is also on the forefront.
Sure. Right.
Tim Cook's making decisions, but like it's also kind of made it clear like Johnny Ive is the one
Bezos is
who's-
a great
who's
example,
doing the
right? So
creative.
Bezos says nothing. He literally says the same things every year about Amazon that he's been saying since the inception, right? We play for the long term, we do this and that. Like, he doesn't talk to anyone, but he's there and he's the founder, so he gets the founder credit.
Right.
And Amazon keeps doing stuff, and that's it. Like, that's all they got to do.
Right, but he gives off this impression that he is making the key decisions here, and like
Right.
it's his mantra.
But like
Tim Cook-
Amazon loses money and their stock goes up. Like Apple's not losing money. They're
Yeah, but-
doing just fine.
They're
And-
just different companies.
Right.
No,
I
I
think
know
when
they are,
Amazon loses money, people are like, what are they investing in?
Right. Well, that's the thing,
Exactly.
and that's what I think. That was the sort of trust that Steve Jobs would have gotten as well, which
Right.
is he got this, these crazy ideas, and people eventually were just like, oh yeah, I bet it's going to work because it's Steve
Yeah.
Jobs.
Right. And Steve Jobs came across as a creative, more than a businessman because it's like, Steve's like, we're doing something cool. I know, I'm personally involved.
Right.
I feel like
Right.
I say, like Tim Cook's like, we're doing something cool. Johnny Ive told me so. Like,
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's look. All I'm
fixed this
saying right now is
legend.
that what we're talking about is the precipice of who drives Apple's narrative.
Right.
Right. And it's either going to be Apple, which it should be, or it's going to be billionaires who are talking about whether or not they're going to invest. In
And
it.
Apple's been better at driving its own narrative for a decade.
long.
than
Apple,
anybody.
Apple literally wrote the book on
Yeah.
like controlling your narrative.
Yeah.
And like this, anyway,
but they never
let's-
released the book because God knows you can't know that.
Carry on.
Steve Jobs burned all.
I
of
mean,
the
if we
books.
want to go through the rumors, like just really quickly, there's the fingerprint scanner, which is whatever.
I don't care.
Yeah.
People seem to be really excited about it. I don't care.
Yeah, the only thing that kind of interests me, and I'm kind of curious about, is the 4.7, 5.7 inch rumors.
Yeah, that would be wild.
Where did that come from, by the way? Where I'm trying to remember.
That's been
the source
floating
of this.
around for a while. I don't remember who it was. to be
Right, but like
honest.
it's always one thing. If it's New York Times or Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg saying it, like I kind of wonder like how they heard about that. A Wall Street Journal
Well, so
said 13 inch
and what
iPad.
they said is that they're testing.
Okay.
And
I'm sure they're testing every
right,
size
that's the
of
thing.
everything.
This is
They're
what I
testing
hate about
watches and
these
TVs.
stories is of course they test everything.
Yeah.
They're probably testing something that sends you to the moon.
Look, I think 13-inch iPad is not as far-fetched as it appears to be.
No,
on first
I don't think
glance.
so either.
No,
I
not
think
at all.
computer, look, if those are computers. Computers comes in all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
You should have a bigger one. You should have a really small one. Like,
Sure.
They have the operating system and
Right.
the way to do it.
But isn't this
in
also
a way
this-
that Android kind of doesn't?
Isn't
right?
that also the strategy that they sort of mock in Samsung? The throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks.
No, well, I don't think they'd be throwing it'd be awesome if they got on stage and Phil Schiller just threw a 13-inch iPad against the wall and left. I was like, that didn't stick.
Look, it's durable.
We tried.
No, I think they would. it's easy what they're going to say. Like, we have a lot of we're in businesses, we're in media, we have a lot of photographers.
That's what I'm saying. This is what Samsung says, and people give them crap
but Samsung's. I don't know if you know this. They run Android.
What?
Yeah, so that's not useful.
Not Tizen?
Right? Like,
Sorry, Tizen's where it's at.
I'm just saying, like,
No, I agree. I think iOS. I mean, I wonder what happens when you have a MacBook Air and an
also
iPad that are
Samsung's
the same
tablets
size.
suck.
Right.
There's
Like,
that.
There's never been a piece of Samsung hardware I want less around me than one of their tablets.
Fair.
I mean, they are ugly.
No, but I'm not. I think the execution is less what I'm talking about here than the strategy. And we've seen Motorola talked a ton about this. They're pulling back. They're doing fewer products.
Can I
They're
just time out for 1
focusing.
second?
Yeah.
Samsung, please find the people who designed the Galaxy S4 Active and put them in charge of everything.
Love Nilay.
That's
Wow.
it. Go ahead. That's it. That's your best product. That is your single best hardware product. It makes no sense. It has screws everywhere.
Dude, it's waterproof.
It's not.
I can
It's
spill
not
beer
waterproof.
on it.
No, you can't because it'll the moisture sensor will trip and it'll still break.
Shh, don't tell
But
me
the
that.
way it looks,
I don't need to
is
know
good.
that.
That's good.
It does look good.
I keep whispering on this.
Physical
podcast.
buttons.
It's your
whispered
Tim
a
Cook
lot.
impression.
We think TV is very interesting. We're gonna keep pulling on the string and see where it goes.
All right, let's look.
All right.
No, but I think we've seen all these companies scaling back and doing fewer products and focusing. And most of them seem to be doing that in response to Apple, which just made the iPhone. And that was their thing.
Well,
is that's their calling card. Is
It's
they
having
just
a
made
clearly
the
defined
iPhone.
flagship. Everyone has a
Yeah,
clearly defined flagship.
and they don't want to make 50 phones for 50 people. Like
Right.
HTC desperately doesn't want to make the Droid DNA 5 for Verizon, right? Like they just don't want to do it.
Unless it makes a lot of money, then yes, they're going to, of course. But they're not going to promote it
But
as
who's
their
doing
flagship.
that? Like, who's making money with these like custom phones outside of Motorola and the Droids? And by the way, Motorola was failing and had to get purchased by Google for something.
Patents.
It
Rainbows.
wasn't those.
They had, like,
those
a-
were super useful. You know how many Apple products they blocked with those patents?
True.
They
So
had, like, a
many
big
Apple
thing of
products.
gummy bears,
Yeah.
and Google was like, "We want."
Do you think
that.
there's a
We'll take
guy
you."
at Motorola who's like every day is like, what if I just walk into the CEO's office with a 3GS and is like, we got it off the market. Like he's got an iPhone 4. He's like, we finally blocked the iPhone 4.
Wow.
I like it.
I'm just saying. He's waiting for that day. Like that's like definitely like a plan. Like he lifted things. It's like
man.
plan B. it's like lie.
He's just sitting there with all the phones that
Like
aren't on
old
the market
phone.
anymore
He's like-
in his desk.
He's like, hey Dennis, finally blocked that 3G. All right. What were you saying? You were saying some stuff.
I don't remember. It was boring. So, okay, what else is coming on these new
Camera.
iPhones?
So I firmly believe the new iPhone will have a ridiculous camera. It is the overwhelming impression that I
Yeah.
get.
Well, yeah, but everyone's trying to do a better camera, with one exception, the X. But like, yeah, that's cameras like.
Oh, what does the X have?
Well, they have different questions. It's a different definition of what better.
Okay,
looks
you're
like,
right. Sorry.
The X is
it's-
clear pixels,
Yeah.
solid
not,
pixels.
not megapixels, not ultra pixels, clear pixels.
Please stop rebranding pixels. They're called pixels. They're star. You can't. Whatever. Stop it.
Well,
No, I mean,
they
do you
can.
remember? Was it Sharp that said we have a fourth pixel in our TVs now?
Yes, and they
it
had,
was like they had the white one.
It's
They had the
yellow.
white-
It
It was the
George
yellow. It
Takei
was yellow.
coming like,
that's right.
oh my.
No, but that was
right.
fine,
That's
dude.
what-
Sharp being like, we added yellow pixels is like that's real. You did that. It's
No,
like
but that's
you can
what,
go
that's
look
what
at
Motorola did with the clear pixels. It's not a branding thing. It's a fourth pixel.
Really?
Yeah, it's clear, and that's what is allowing it to receive more light in the sensor. That's what they say. That's
All
what
right.
they are. It's not a branding thing. It's
Remember when Motorola
real.
told you they had an 8-core processor on their phone?
No.
The Motorola 8X computing
I
system.
mean, that is also technically
nope, not
True.
even
All right,
close.
David,
Dude.
It's also a
Motorola
lie.
has 8 processor. Microsoft has 3 Xbox OSs.
I'm just saying, like,
And there is no Santa
at
Claus.
this point, whenever Motorola is like, check out our tech specs, I'm like, I'm gonna ask Anand.
Oh yeah, no, it's branded nonsense, but
Yeah.
it's not quite as nonsensical as like the ultra pixels.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
All right.
That said, it's not a good camera. It's an okay camera.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the easiest way for the iPhone to. That's the easiest way for Tim Cook to get on stage and say we've done something revolutionary.
And then
is to have
isn't
an
it like
incredible
always like
camera.
what the S has done is like it's about the same body. You know, we got the new OS. Everyone has the OS. We have a better camera now. And they always
Yeah.
show something new.
If they were just like a year from now, this button will continue to work, I'd be like, I'm in.
I think
I'll
what
take
was
12.
rumor had it was slow motion was something they might come to the next one. Like
I mean, look, camera features you can just add them, right?
Right.
Like,
It's just software.
yeah, it's software, and like B, it's like open Samsung's camera
Yeah.
app and pick like 2 of these. And be like,
Yeah.
we did a better job because Samsung's like everything. Try all of it.
I hope to God they don't start touting. Well, you could use the front camera and the back camera at the same time.
Dude.
Record your reaction.
I haven't yet
Not.
downloaded Front Pack. Have you?
I didn't know it was They call
It's a
it
thing.
front
It's an
back.
app. Ellis, of course, Ellis. Who else?
Ellis
Oh, yeah. I
loves
think
front
I
back.
saw the
Yeah.
picture
I
of him
keep
using
seeing
it.
Instagrams of Ellis using front back, and it's always him smiling, and then somebody on the other side of the camera who like really doesn't want to be part of it.
All right, what else? Let's get off Apple. Look,
Wait, one more thing before we get off Apple.
Yeah.
Why still is nobody talking about NFC?
because it lost.
It's just over. We don't care.
It lost.
When was the last time you used it or thought to use it?
Well, I haven't because I have an iPhone.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, but I have an
use
HTC
Android
One
devices.
with NFC.
Yeah.
Well, but what everybody's
This
been
has nothing
saying
to do with
for
it. Next
everybody's
seven.
been saying for 2 years now, NFC will catch on when the iPhone gets it, and for 2 revisions now, it's been like, oh, maybe it'll have it this time,
Well, I
and then
mean,
NFC will catch on.
It
and
might, like, it's a chicken and egg thing. There's no infrastructure for it, really.
No, there's
Right, but that's
infrastructure
Apple's favorite
around.
thing to
What-
do
what-
is
what
be like,
payment
this
service-
exists, we made it awesome, and then a
is
year
the
from now they'll
ubiquitous
come in and say,
payment
we took
system to
over.
really use it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I get the feeling that like Passbook was kind of like Scott Forstall's baby, and so like no one is paying attention to it right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I don't see what Apple wins with that. I think that there's a lot of wins to be had with Bluetooth.
Yeah.
I think that stuff is incredible. Like, I have a Fitbit, or I used to have. I'm $400 deep into Fitbits because I keep losing them. It's real bad. But like that is incredible. It kind of destroys your battery life a little bit, but it's I think that's the path, right? Is like it's in iOS 7. They announced iBeacon, where you just like
Right.
walk around and like Bluetooth things happen to your phone. Like that stuff is the future, not
Yeah.
like beeping.
Right.
Maybe I'd be into it. I just don't see them doing it that way.
Fair enough.
Because that's
that was weird.
Apple
Jinx.
contrary. You know.
Right.
Go ahead.
So last Apple thing, it's tangential to it, kind of. Tomorrow, the Jobs movie opens for everybody.
Which you saw.
I saw in
Yeah, you
January.
saw it. I haven't
I saw
seen
it
it.
in January, and I've seen it recently at a screening as well.
Did your opinion change?
Did-
So you were pretty lukewarm the first time, right?
Yeah, and I think I was a little too nice to it.
Really?
Looking back. Like, I will say this. I was surprised Ashton Kutcher did a decent job. I obviously did research. The mannerisms well, his voice, again, still Kelso, but like the mannerisms he seemed to nail.
Okay.
For most emotions, a couple things I don't think he can do crying in general. That's another story. But the rest of the movie...
Not a good crier, that
I mean,
Ashton.
I'm convinced there's a meta story.
I bet he
what
could
I've
cry
always
pretty
said.
good if he needed to.
If he needed to. He didn't need to, apparently, in this one. No, but
Right.
I'm convinced, like, if you watch the movie, this is not too much of a spoiler, everyone talks to Jobs, and they don't seem to really talk to each other. Like, as far as I know, it's all in Jobs' head here. Like, it's some kind of, like, weird
Right.
meta story. Otherwise, it's a pretty dull, here's the plot synopsis of a Wikipedia entry. Let's go through it like it was a movie script.
So if they had done it so that he wakes up at the end and like it was all a dream,
I
it
think
would have
that'd be
tied
cool,
way better.
And I would not be surprised at all.
All I know about this movie is that it's about the boring part.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
yeah, which is weird. I don't totally get why they did that.
yeah, I mean, it's just that's the boring part. You know what the interesting part is? When dude made the iPhone.
Yeah.
Like, I know what, like, I can
it-
go
I
read
mean, there's
folklore.org.
They're definitely
and
setting
know
up
what
a
happened when he
sequel,
made
right?
It ends at, well, no, I don't know. Jobs 2,
2.
Electric Beluga.
You couldn't even. You just said electric beluga.
I was like,
I just want you to know. There's like a whale somewhere in the ocean. It's like, yes, it's my
I'm
time.
relevant again. Nope, never mind.
Someone's gonna discover me.
It's a new mammal.
This is actually a dog.
No, I mean, like in fairness, there's that second Jobs movie coming out that also ends the same place this one does, at the iPod event.
Yeah.
Like, but this, the next one, of course, sounds interesting because it's Aaron Sorkin, because it's a different format. It's 3
Well, so
real-time
here's-
Well, and
moments.
Waz is involved.
But here's
which
my
is-
guess.
Oh, whatever.
Well, he
no
was
offense
hitting
to
on
Waz,
this.
but
Oh
like,
my god.
That's fine. Just
we're about to lose that
everyone
kid.
stands still.
How much
Do
more
not look
Vergecast do we have? Because we're all in danger.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, see it at your own risk. Wait for
But-
it.
so- but here's
We're
my theory
seeing
about why they're all.
like
I
at the
wouldn't-
movies. It for me thumbs up.
I wouldn't
thumbs
pay
down.
$12 to it.
No?
Or however much ticket costs these
Yeah.
days. Like, I wouldn't pay that much. Like, it was interesting to see, like, Ashton do something cool. He did a better job than I thought. The rest of the movie is just, it's Lifetime. I keep
Yeah.
thinking I'm watching a
Right.
Lifetime movie.
Well,
Which
here's
is a shame
Sorry,
because I
I'm
love
sorry,
Josh
but, like,
Gad. I'm like
I
bummed that
love
he
Josh
didn't make
Gad.
the movie amazing.
He didn't get a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I
Right,
felt really bad.
He's Steve Wozniak. He plays Steve Wozniak. He doesn't get a lot to do.
No.
But here's the thing. Like, I think that's the reason they make movies about this part, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because there is a Steve Wozniak character. All of those people are out of the industry. They're out of Apple. They're talking about
Right.
their
Right.
experiences. The legend is there. Like, the iPhone part, it's like none of those people.
Like Johnny
are talking.
Ive is not going to cooperate.
Yeah.
Right.
And like,
fair.
who do you get to play Johnny Ive? Jason Statham.
Jason
God.
Statham.
Jason Statham is Johnny Ive. I want that Photoshop right away.
All right, hashtag
Yes,
Vergecast for the Jason Statham, Johnny Ive Photoshop.
Please.
and we'll tell you how
The
awesome
eye
it is for
transporter.
next week. The eye transporter.
I want to stop talking about Apple.
We can wrap up with anything you want. We got Sony. We've got Meat. We've got
Sony Meat.
Sony Meat.
Sony Meat.
I would like to wait. What else?
The other big news that just happened today was the YouTube Windows Phone stuff. I don't know if you want to get into that too much.
Can we call Tom?
We can try. It's kind of
What time is it? What
time is it in UK?
Tom?
It's like
Standard
11
time?
and change in Tom's
TST.
Standard
Yeah,
time.
I'll see
Might
if
be a
he's
little
online,
late.
but
Because that stuff to me is like, Google, what are you doing, man? Just let them have. Like, they're just people. You know, they picked Windows Phone. They got not a lot going for them.
not really.
Why do we keep whispering?
I mean, I
All
think there was actually a bunch of crazy Microsoft stuff.
so-
Even recently, they showed off the controller, but talked about all the wacky things they almost did with the controller.
I'm
is
going to
nuts.
just go on record as saying I have extreme reservations about the Xbox One launch. I think
Because
they're-
they keep
right.
delaying it.
I think they're blowing it. I
No.
think the Xbox One, don't get me wrong, the Xbox One could be a great product. It has enormous potential to be a great product. The way they're handling, like, now we made an Xbox One. Here is a list of its features. Here's how much it will cost.
and then
here's
once a week
whether
they
it
pull
will.
something off that list.
Yeah, it's like, here's whether the camera will be plugged in all the time.
Right.
Every single one of those things is like up in the air.
Yeah.
Here's when it will come out. Like, they're just, I don't know what is happening like with them on this level, but it is it's a roller coaster of like chaos. And when Microsoft is like talking to us, which they've done, and then we leave and we're like, what? That's bad. Like, that
Yeah,
means
right.
no normal human will ever understand what they're talking
Right.
about. Like this Xbox One Home Gold thing, there was a lot of explanation there, and I still think it's confusing.
I mean, so
It
to
is.
their my hope for them, the silver lining here is that I think a lot of what they've done is just tell the story really badly.
There's enormous potential for
they
the
have
Xbox
3
One.
more months to like figure out how to talk about it,
Yeah.
and like get the story straight. And theoretically, none of that involves touching the product one iota. It's just figuring out how to explain what their product
Right.
is,
Yeah.
and some other pieces about it.
What do you
Like,
think their product is?
I don't know. That
do
they
you-
haven't
what about
told
you?
me.
It's a better game console. It's what they have, just a little better. Where I don't know.
I mean,
Right.
right now it
Specs.
seems like the Xbox 360 with a lot more RAM plus Google TV.
No,
That's
but
what it
there's no,
feels
but it
like
can't
to
play
me.
360 games.
Right.
Right.
Like, right? I mean, if that's what it was, I think people would be like, that's awesome, and would buy it.
Sure.
But
I mean,
like-
that would be like the Xbox 360S version.
Right.
Right.
Would be like it's faster.
but-
Well, wait. No, they have a 360S. Sorry, nomenclature. I'm nerding out here. Sorry, go on.
Well,
But,
I just don't think you can sell. I don't think you can sell like the smartphone generation on better graphics alone.
But I mean, I think it's one of those things. Like they kind of put themselves in a corner. Like, could they make a 360 platform just a little better specs and get better games? I don't know. I think they had. I think both Sony and Microsoft like looked. We have to reset and think future proof because it's not hardware after this. It's software. And
I don't know.
platforms.
I think in a lot of ways, Sony is talking about the PS4 as the PS3S. It's just better graphics. And
But,
No,
I mean,
no.
it's also a reset. Like, you can't play PS3 games
No,
on
so
it.
right, no, it
but-
is. They're
but
doing new
Sony,
things.
everything's
no,
reset.
I
They're very much
completely-
after the same group of people.
Completely disagree with
Really?
you. Sony talked about the PS3 as though it was a home media entertainment system,
Right.
as though it was a supercomputer.
They talked about it like
It could
Microsoft's talking
run-
about the One.
It, it could run
21
Linux at launch,
processors,
right? Like they talked about it
8
as
USB
like,
cores.
this thing's going to sit in your living room and it will do everything.
Right.
They're talking about the PS4 as it's going to have awesome games.
Right,
Yeah.
but
It's a
what the-
huge difference.
Well, but they
Right.
changed with the PS3. Like they don't talk about the PS3 that way now. They talked
Right.
about it that way 7 years ago. They
But
don't talk
that's-
about it now.
But that's like
Right.
But the way they were telling the PS3 story 6 months ago is the way they're telling the PS4 story now. Whereas
No.
Microsoft is trying to do for the One what Sony did with the PS3.
yeah, but the way they're talking about the One is the way they've been talking about the 360 for the past 4 years.
Increasingly so.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I get the argument, but what I'm saying is like Sony is like they figured out here are the people who are going to pay $399 for the PS4.
$399.
Yeah.
Here are the people who are going to pay $400 for a games console. It's gamers.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go. Here's gamer
Right.
stuff.
And then, like-
Microsoft is like, who's going to pay $499
500. Yeah.
for the Xbox One? Everyone.
Right.
Let's talk to every. It's like,
Right.
are you sure?
And have a Connect.
Right,
Why?
because you know you can
Just
also
have
get for
it.
$500.
Just have
You can
it.
get an iPad, like
Yeah.
straight up. You can get an iPad. You know what iPad do? Play a lot of games. Like, it's a weird.
I can't say Xbox onto my iPad. Though.
You can. That's
true.
But I mean,
and the NSA will be listening. Like, it doesn't matter.
it is such a smart thing because like no one's going, Sony, are you going to have Netflix? Of course they're going to have Netflix
Right.
and Hulu and HBO. They're going to have that. That's fine. That's a given. Gamers want to buy this early on. At some point, it's going to get cheaper, and like that's when the people are like, I want a Netflix box.
Right.
That's when you'll get them. Not now.
Right.
And like Xbox is like Microsoft's like, we have a Connect with it. That's not why it's $100 more, but we have it. I can't tell you why it's better. It's just better.
I should
Wink.
definitely. Maybe I'll
Say
play
wink.
more video games. Maybe I'll be like Xbox. Like, I think it's my Xbone, by the way. I'm sticking with
Xbone?
it.
Xbone.
It seems like it will be a solid product.
Oh yeah.
It will definitely be the next Xbox. Xbox is a great product.
Yeah.
That is of all the,
The Xbox
Xboxes,
One.
it is one.
Literally,
Right.
it will be. It'll.
Yeah.
And I think I think Microsoft saw a lot of them. I think Sony saw a lot of PS4s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's gonna drive anything other than gamer sales, which is what both companies have wanted to do. What Sony appears to be sort of like,
Right.
but just get the thing out there and
Right.
sell it to game. And what Microsoft is like, this is what we're gonna do.
Right.
And that seems muddled to me.
But let's talk historical. Not to say
Yeah.
this is an exercise in futility. Let's talk history. I mean, PS3 had a pretty shoddy, like it had a decent launch and then had a shoddy midsection,
Right.
and then it's fine. It's like it's on par with Xbox 360. None of the stuff that's happening now, like we're gonna bitch and moan and say this is not the right way to do it. It won't matter. They're gonna both sell it at launch. They're gonna have like a weird
Sure.
middle period, and then maybe one's gonna catch up and learn mistakes, maybe not. But like,
I mean, at the same
This,
time,
like,
though,
what
like
they're doing
look
now
at
is,
the
like, going
Wii
to-
U. Like that's not necessarily true anymore.
Yeah, but
you
like-
can't just like all three of those consoles sold like crazy, despite
Yes.
doing radically different things, and that like it doesn't seem like the existing momentum is just there.
But
anymore.
is the Xbox One and the PS4 like radically different from each other? Like they're
No,
a
no, that's
console
fair.
with a
I
controller.
agree with that.
They kind of
That's
do
fair.
things, and like the games are like more what the games are selling in general anyway.
Sure.
The Wii U, you're buying a toy tablet essentially.
Yeah.
And buying for Mario games, and I have
Right.
one, and I love the Mario games, and I'm gonna call it that. Like it sounds like an old person. The Mario games.
Mario games.
But
Yeah.
there's not much.
They should have just called the Wii U Mario.
Yes.
That would probably be the next one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, I don't know what Nintendo's doing, man. I don't.
No.
It's impossible to understand.
Just make Mario for the iPad, and then just sit back and count your money for the
With
rest
pipe
of your
dream.
lives.
No. Like, 'cause you're not gonna get as much money as you would from a Nintendo console. Like, I don't know.
They're getting like $6 from the Nintendo.
And let's not
console,
forget, like
because
they've had
nobody's
so
buying
many
it.
years of success. Nintendo's not going anywhere. Let's not
No,
kid
of course
ourselves.
well,
Everyone goes through dark periods. I don't know.
didn't
Nintendo's
Nintendo
not
start as like a truck company?
a playing card company?
Playing card company.
Yeah.
Nokia started as a tire company. That's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. Look, it'll change. Maybe
Like,
the next
I just want.
the next version of Nintendo will be like a soft drink company.
I think Google should buy Nintendo next.
I don't think they can do that.
Probably not.
No, I
What
mean,
would they do with?
Mario on Android.
right.
Done. I will buy all of the Nexus
that's not-
7.
I'm sure you
That's
can
not-
get Mario on Android
Google
now.
makes
just not
acquisitions.
legally.
Good, yeah.
It's not even hard.
By the way, we will have Tom Warren in a few minutes to talk YouTube stuff, and then we'll kind of
Have to wait a few minutes.
Well, we've been trying to get on. We've been stalling. It's less
So
than a
less
few
than
minutes.
Is it 1 minute? They can see
It
him.
is a certain number of minutes.
Can we? So will we be able to see him?
We can hear him, I hope.
When can I see Tom Warren?
You know, you do realize also
I
like,
want to see Tom Warren right now.
you're having a conversation and we can't hear the other
Yeah,
side.
it's
We can't
really,
hear the other side.
this is
Tom,
phenomenal television.
What?
Hi, Tom.
That's
Tom can hear us either, can't he?
entertainment.
Tom has a super pro studio.
I know. It's so
Yeah,
fancy.
dude. Like, I'm kind of
Is he,
jealous.
and he's well lit.
Hey, Tom, if you can hear us, adjust your mic and check your hair.
This guy.
Yeah. Vergecast bingo players, you have a bingo.
I would just like to point out
hear
that do we still have bingo?
I hope so.
What happened to bingo?
I don't know.
Somebody give me
Well,
bingo.
someone owned bingo.
I think
again.
everyone won because it was just Josh plays with his hair in all the
my
spaces.
favorite
Yeah.
bingo. My favorite bingo square of all time was Paul is silent for more than 15 minutes. It was like, oh man,
That was like the finish your beer in the drinking game when you hit 15 minutes.
15 minutes of Paul not saying anything.
Oh,
Poor Paul.
but that's every episode.
Can you show me Paul Miller?
This is not Google.
Paul Miller, ladies and
Okay, Google. Find Paul Miller.
show me Paul. Like it's in a cut to Paul. He's like working in a field.
Yeah.
This is working in a
Hey,
field.
Evan,
Is that how you work in the field?
Yeah, you're
you hear
hoeing.
me okay?
You're hoeing.
Endless hoeing. Wherever
That should be the name of
Tom.
Paul's
Hey,
Endlessly Hoeing.
Hey,
Paul
Tom.
Miller story. Hi,
How's it
Tom.
going?
you hear me now?
Is this your home? Where are you?
This is, yeah.
It's very nice.
Very dark.
He's very well lit. It's nighttime.
It's orange. I mean, the back, like the outside isn't lit. It's night.
Yes. Good, Ross.
Can you light the outside for us? I need some better backlight.
Yeah, hang on. I'll just go down to the store and get some lighting.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll
bear with me.
Tom, what is happening with YouTube and Windows Phone?
Yeah, well, what isn't happening?
Well,
Ooh.
the app is not happening.
Burn.
Yeah.
They're mad.
Yeah.
Why?
So there's a timeline. So they released this app. Microsoft built it. Google obviously didn't know about it. It came out and it didn't have ads, and it had some crazy download option so that people could download YouTube videos and watch them offline.
Yeah.
Google wasn't impressed with that, so they asked Microsoft to remove it on a particular date. Instead of removing it, Microsoft then updated it on that date and removed the download option.
Okay.
And then after that, Google obviously still wasn't impressed, and they both agreed to work on a new version.
No. Did they both agree to? Did they both say they were agreeing to it? And Microsoft go, yeah, we're working together.
Yeah,
Just
it
trust
was like
us."
some weird joint statement.
Okay.
Like public joint statement, where they both like committed that they were gonna work on a new version. And that was back in, I think it was in May,
Okay.
if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, it was the very end of May. So it's been a while since we've heard anything about this app and what's going on.
No Windows Phone users have had no
And then this
cat
week,
videos.
Microsoft released an update to it.
So-
And basically, it includes ads. It has the same sort of features. It doesn't have the download option. But Google didn't, from what I understand, from what I've been told, Google didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
So they yanked it last night. They pulled basically the access that Microsoft's given to access YouTube, and they disabled it from the server side. So essentially, you load that app now on your Windows Phone, and it doesn't do much. It comes up with some silly error saying we don't know what happened.
Right.
So-
So here's my understanding of this is Microsoft, and I feel like this is down to how these two companies perceive each other.
Okay.
Microsoft was like, we want to build a YouTube app. Google was like, you don't have the APIs in IE, right? Or IE is not capable of doing it on the web, which
Right.
is the way we want
Right.
to do it. And
For whatever
Microsoft,
reason.
And Microsoft ran away, and they were like, but Google only cares about money. If we just show the ads, they will be happy. And
But they also
Yeah.
said
they hacked their way into showing the ads, and Google was like, that's still not what we wanted.
Well, and they also said,
Right.
well, you have native apps on other platforms that you actively
Right.
support
Right.
and deal with. Why not play nice
Yeah,
with us?
I think
Right.
the weird stuff here is that Google obviously wants the ads, and as far as I understand, the way that Microsoft implemented the ads this week, they weren't done in a way that was like the correct way of doing it. So Google couldn't track them correctly, and like just stuff like the skip button wasn't on the right side. It's supposed to be on a particular side. It's just Microsoft's
Right.
obviously reverse engineered and just done their own solution.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I kind of think it's weird that Google's saying that they have to build a HTML5 app, because as far as I know, Microsoft has a limitation in Windows Phone that won't allow them to use these public APIs.
Right.
And I think Google knows that, and I think they're kind of exploiting that, if I'm
Right.
honest.
It's API
it
warfare.
seems odd that they build their own apps that are native on Android and iPhone, but they won't let someone else build one for them. It just seems a little strange.
So here's
What do I think is going to happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think this app is going to happen. Unless Microsoft builds the support that they need to then create a HTML5 version, I just can't really see this going anywhere.
Right, so this isn't just about the app, right? It's about Microsoft needing to do something
right.
Yeah,
presumably
I mean-
large to Internet Explorer in order for this to work.
I mean, and why? What do they need to do to Internet Explorer? It's like, so there's no way impossible if you have Windows Phone to go to YouTube. Is that fair to say?
Well, I mean, you can view YouTube in IE, and it
Okay. So that
it works
does
fine,
work.
and
That's
it
an
plays
option.
and stuff. But for the sort of app and experience and all those features and stuff that Microsoft wants in the YouTube app, so that it's the same as Android and the iOS versions, I don't think they can build it in quite the way that they want to build it.
Right.
And I think that there's obviously a restriction there, and Google knows there's a restriction, and I think they're kind of playing on that. and they know it's kind of like these two companies. They're both as bad as each other. They're both a couple of children, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, here's Microsoft Deputy General Counsel David Howard. Here's what he said. Quote, "It seems to us that Google's reasons for blocking our apps are manufactured so that we can't give our users the same experience as Android and iPhone users are getting. The roadblocks Google has set up are impossible to overcome, and Google, of course, know it." Like, they're just fighting each other now. It's a war of words.
I think it goes back to, like, this isn't the first time that this has happened between these two companies. Like, before, there was a weird situation where Google Maps was, like, blocked on Windows Phone temporarily.
Right.
We never really found out why that was. And then there was an ActiveSync. Basically, Google pulled ActiveSync, and then there was, like, the lead up to that. And
all
the
Microsoft
timing
has to
around that
do
was very curious.
is build a YouTube competitor.
Sorry?
That's what they did with the maps.
Bing Video.
Yeah. Well, they tried with MSN Video.
Yeah.
Does anyone even remember that?
But it wasn't Bing Video. Trust me.
So, I mean, do you think if Windows Phone market share, like, explodes, like, Google will have no choice, right? I mean, this is just because it's the third place platform.
I think they're both, like, they have mutual customers here, right? Yeah. Google's got their YouTube users, and Microsoft's got the Windows Phone. And then they're both... The mutual customers are getting shafted here. So they either need to, like, start working with each other in the way that they publicly say they are, or, like, it's just a crazy situation. Like, I don't think there's any point, like, you can't point your finger at either company and say it's their fault or it's their fault, because they're, as far as I'm concerned, and from everything I understand, they're both as bad as each other. So.
Yeah. Well, that's terrible.
But
Right.
I don't know where it's going to go.
It's going to go down the road of Windows Phone users constantly using alternate weird apps.
Or they're going to get popular and Google's going to have to buy it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, until Windows Phone, like, until it gets that 10% and over, I don't think developers and big companies are going to take a lot of notice until that. It's starting to increase, but it's so small that it's not enough to really get people to take notice. And they've got the same situation on Instagram.
Right.
Microsoft built an Instagram app.
Yeah.
And it was ready around about 6 months ago.
And they've just been sitting on it.
And they can't release it. So
yeah. Hey, real quick, we were just talking about the Xbox. I know you have some strong thoughts on this, and then we got to wrap up.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think they had a good opportunity to, like, prove that they were still in the consumer game, and I think they've kind of messed it up. I think the messaging and the confusion, and they obviously like, some of the stuff they've said that it's not very clear, and it seems like one executive doesn't know what the other executive's doing, and that the company doesn't really know what they're doing with these exports policies and what's the best thing to say publicly. It just all seems very confused internally.
But if you're like...
And I don't know if that's, like, related to the fact that the head of the department's gone now and stuff. Like, there's obviously some huge decisions to be made internally about this Xbox One, and I think the used game stuff and the always online requirements were too early into, if they wanted to implement that, they should have done it, like, a couple of years down the line.
Right.
And I think that just spiraled out of control, and they've not been able to really say to people, this is why you want to buy an Xbox One. So I think they're going to struggle with it initially. But it's a good platform. Everyone's using the 360, and I think they'll be okay. But for either console and for any of these next generation consoles, I'm not quite sure that the demand's even there. So
iPads,
I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing for consoles.
Dude, iPads, Apple, they built controller support in iOS 7.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't think anybody is going to, all these developers are going to be coding games so people can hold controllers in front of an iPad. They're building games so that when Apple flips a switch in the Apple TV, they're like, we're ready.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
The Apple TV costs $99. There's 1,000 games here for $4.
But I want something more than Angry Birds. I think there's a market for that. But anyway, it's definitely going to cut
Gabe
into it.
Newell said that Apple's the biggest threat to Steam and the living room, right?
Right.
I think he's right. Like, if Apple have got the developer support and the app ecosystem to really, if they really want to do gaming or even casual gaming, which I think the vast majority of consumers care about more than, like, your Call of, like, full-on Call of Duty and stuff like that. I think they do it well, and in the same way that the Wii did really well, because it was kind of unique. I think anything that Apple
the
does.
Wii
will-
is an interesting one because the Wii did well for a couple of years and then it nosedive, like unprecedented nosedive. So like that's maybe not the. I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll see if that's an apt.
No, but it had the
analogy.
consumer attention, right? Like
Right.
people knew what it was. Your grandma knew what it was and stuff. So
Right.
But it
Your
was
grandma
called the
did.
Wii.
My grandma did not.
All right, we got to wrap up.
All right.
Tom, thank you for
thank you so
joining
much.
us. But
All right, cheers,
Ross,
guys.
Nope. I'm saying thank you.
usurper.
What?
Ross is a usurper.
I've been jinxing everything today.
All right.
All right.
Bye, Tom.
You want the housekeeping notes? I have them here.
No, you do it.
Okay.
Fine. Your show, buddy.
All right. Fine.
Wow.
Whatever.
Huh?
This is. Do you want me to just
this
go?
is the Verge.
Do you guys wanna-
Yeah. Just wanna.
Look, this is the Vergecast. Okay, it happened. You were here. I was here. Ross was here.
Maybe, but not for long.
Ross was more here than you were.
Ross is on his way out.
Apparently.
You can email us. Yeah, I'm sure you have a lot to say. I'm sure you have a lot of ideas and thoughts.
I'm seeing them in live stream right now.
I'm eager to know what mix of Google versus Apple bias I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
get today. I'm predicting 70-30 pro Google,
Mm-hmm.
but with that last comment about iOS 7 in the living room, or iOS gaming in the living room,
Mm-hmm.
could go all the way to 50-50.
Ooh.
I'll let you know. But I'm Reckless on Twitter.
I'm
This
Pierce
man's
David.
Pierce David.
Ono Roscoe, no E.
There's
God
all
damn it,
kinds of
Josh.
email addresses out there for us. David has at least 50 or 60 Outlook.com email
That's
addresses
true.
all to himself.
I got
That's
5.
true.
I keep getting Microsoft Recovery Password. Someone's trying to get my account.
That's great.
have 'em.
You can also leave a comment on the post,
Right.
which will go up tomorrow with the finished thing.
Of course. A couple of the housekeeping things. Obviously, if you're on the site, check out Laura June's amazing feature.
Oh, yes.
Your meat addiction is destroying the planet, but we can fix it. Fun fact, if you're getting hungry about it, it's all fake meat in there. Like, it's just all fake. You want to eat it
Okay.
though anyway. Small,
Still looks delicious.
Small Empire is still doing great. We're going
I
to
ate a
episode next week.
cheeseburger while
Super
reading
excited.
that piece, by the
Dude,
way. I ate a cheeseburger while reading
full
that
meat.
piece.
Sorry, guys.
Full
but
meat.
full meat. I went the full meat. Let's
My
move
meat
on.
addiction is destroying the
I
planet.
should never talk. Top Shelf is going to be on break on Monday. Sorry, David, you needed to take a break. We'll be back next week after that.
Yeah.
And also, the laptop buyer's guide came out today. So
Yeah.
big ups to design.
So
to,
go buy a laptop
or just read it.
immediately.
Just
And
maybe
actually,
read
next
the
week,
guide.
next week is full of just insane stuff on
Yeah,
the Verge.
next
I'm very
week's gonna
excited
be
about
wild.
that. It's
Yeah.
great. We're back, by the way. The news is back. The summer's over.
God.
You're going back to school. News.
I'm going back to school. Am I going back to
I
school?
think I just heard John yell.
Yeah,
news
John's
is
screaming,
back.
news is back.
The news is back. There's going to be new stuff. There might be new tablets of all shapes and sizes.
and colors, maybe.
Who knows? You
No,
know?
so what's really coming up is the next thing is IFA, which is where everybody shows laptops and
Yeah.
tablets and stuff. So there's going to be like
Right.
a glut of that in the
September
next
3rd
3 weeks.
through
all
6th
happening.
ish.
Yeah.
And then we're all going to eat fake meat.
Maybe.
Just gonna eat
And
some.
I'm going to eat real meat.
Real meat.
Because
Full meat.
Suck it, everybody.
Fake meat, real meat, full
All right,
meat.
that was
Let's do it.
Vergecast. Thank you so much for being here. May your rocks constantly roll while being monitored by
Goodbye.
the NSA.